Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Renew Podcast. I am your host, Kristen Andre, and as always, we are helping you reclaim your business and your life without losing your edge. And with me in the studio today, I have my friend of Urban Trend Studios, Miss Ashley Hugghins.
Hello, Kristen. How are you?
I am good. Thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely.
We have another fun topic for you guys because today we're talking about the ladies. We're talking about female stereotypes, friendships, and confidence. And you are the perfect person to have in here because, you know, what's interesting is when we first met, so I know Ashley, she did she's a photographer, obviously with Urban Trend. So she did a photo shoot with my youngest recently. And what struck me about you is you're not just a photographer. Like, you really use this as a platform to help young kids, a lot of girls, I'm going to say girls, help young girls with confidence, which is a big thing.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I really, when I first started, I think I was kind of on the tail end of the millennials still. And they were all, you know, it was kind of the me generation, like the look at me, and realized kind of maybe 5 or so years ago, this whole change in just the demeanor of these girls, what they wanted out of sessions. And it wasn't so much, oh, you know, dress you up and make you look like a model. It was more of, let's give you this self-empowerment session to make you bring out the best in you. And so, yeah, it just kind of went hand in hand with the uprising of Instagram and social media. And, you know, as that rises, confidence seems, self-image seems to fall.
I agree with you because I felt like I had pretty decent self-confidence until like I started that comparison game. And
Exactly.
I'm an adult, so growing up, I don't remember this being an issue. I mean, I don't remember talking about empowerment or confidence or anything like that. So is it from social media? Like, have you seen this? Did you have that problem when you were younger?
I did, but I think it's put under a magnifying glass now because you would only be able to compare yourself to girls in the magazines. You see the girls in the magazines or girls at school.
Right.
But again, those are like everyday girls. But now you've got to deal with filters. You've got to deal with people who maybe are on a higher social scale than you, people who have access to better makeup than you, all of this. And they're like, if you don't look like this, you're boring. Or this is what it's supposed to look like. And that's why I love how all of these influencers are coming out now saying, these are all filters. Yes. None of this is real.
I've seen the trend now. I haven't jumped on this trend. If y'all follow me, you may notice I'm still using the filters. But it is the trend where like they have the filter, then they show what they really look like.
Exactly.
And it's a big difference.
You know
but even the magazines, like growing up, because we had, I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, but we had I remember 17 magazine.
Oh yeah.
And all this. And I actually last weekend just watched this is so bad. Y'all are going to think terrible. I just watched 13 Going on 30.
I actually watched it the other day too.
It was on last week. It's fantastic. But it kind of was that whole thing. It was, if you haven't seen this movie, it's totally like teenage chick flick, which is basically my genre of movies. But it talked about, it let her fast forward to see if she followed those trends and the popular people and all that.
Yeah. And
what
she turned out to be a horrible person.
Awful. But yet we follow them.
Exactly. And like I said, I think there is a switch now, especially with this generation. I've noticed that they are all about real. They don't like fake. Yeah. The whole Kardashian thing is sort of falling away. I know it seems like they're still very prominent.
They're still very prominent. We just did an episode on the Kardashians. I'm not a Kardashian
But I want to say that they're more popular with people the 30-year-olds, than they are with the younger generation, because the younger generation is soaking up the realism and the what do you call it? I can't remember what the name is for the influencer name that they have now, but it's all about actually showing who you are. And even if you are an influencer, let's say, that makes up yourself all the time, you have those photos that say, hey, by the way, this is what I actually look like when I wake up, before all the makeup artists, or before I blow my hair out, or before I apply the filters and stuff.
So how do you get people there? Because I think that's great. I'm very much a what you see is what you get. Now, I'll use a filter all day long, but I'm also in my 50s. And I'm like, hey, I didn't have this when I
But
was
you don't
a
use a
teenager.
filter that makes you look like a completely different
If
person.
you ask my kids,
Oh,
you
I
may
don't think
think so. No, I mean, you've
Nah.
seen me in person. I mean, I use them, but I don't look that drastically
Or you can use them when
different.
you don't feel like putting makeup on.
Oh, for sure.
That's usually
That's
when I
the
use
running
them.
joke with my friends. They're like, "Well, I don't have any makeup on." I'm like, "I'll fix it in post. It's
Yeah,
fine.
just use a filter.
It's fine." All right. So when you started photography, none of this was happening. None of this social media or anything like that. So you were just
No.
capturing the person.
Yeah, we were making it more of a model experience, kind of going back to the whole magazine.
Yeah.
I believe one of my catchphrases was, "You look like you just stepped off the cover of a magazine."
Yep.
I think we probably even used Vogue because it was all about getting all dolled up and
That was
making
back in the
yourself look
Glamour
beautiful.
Shots days.
That was on the. I actually worked for Glamour Shots for a hot minute.
Did you really?
Yes,
I
yes.
have some pretty cool. They're horrible. Actually, my kids found some of my old Glamour Shots. This was like the late 80s. I don't know why they were still in my memories box, and they found them
Yeah.
and saved one of them as that's their
That's
screensaver
amazing.
for my contact photo.
They weren't quite as bad when
Oh,
I
they were
worked there,
horrible
but
when
they
I was
were
there.
very, same poses, in and out, boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
But
Here,
they
let
like
me-
to make you up and make you look like different than you normally look.
Right. And I think that was what my focus was in the beginning, was not so much to look different than you are, but to glam it up. So
Right.
we always encourage girls, hey, let's do heavy eyes or really bold lips, and we're going to do these really cool outfits. And I know even some photographers have style closets.
Yes.
And they let them use the pieces and stuff. But it got to the point where I really just wanted to show off who they were. And the makeup is more of either an enhancement of what they want. You just bringing out their best selfies. It's
Right.
smoothing the skin out a little
Yeah.
bit. Just making everything, kind of putting like the little bow on top. But some girls are like, no, I want to really make it. They really want to express themselves through the makeup. So we do the really cool bold eyes, or they have a really awesome sense of style. And so the makeup goes with the style, and they'll do their hair up in really cool different ways. And but that's the point, is what do you want your session to look like? What reflects your personality? I love wearing makeup. It makes me feel good.
Yep.
It makes me feel powerful. It just makes me feel very feminine. But if you don't want that, you want more of a natural look, all right, let's do that then. Let's go do that natural look.
I like that you're pulling in what they are. So let's
Yeah.
talk about this for a minute, because we said we were going to talk about stereotypes and friendships and confidence is a big thing. But I think a lot of that comes from like you said, the stereotypes. We're trying to fit into something that we think we're supposed to be, or that we've been told we were supposed to be.
Right.
And I hate, we all hated that growing up. I was I was a child of the 70s, so it was a seen and not heard type of generation.
Mm-hmm.
And now I feel like the pendulum has swung so far the other way that the younger generation's still trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah.
And they're definitely not, they're heard and seen, but I think they're to me, it just seems like they're fighting to figure it out.
That's
like
a good
there's
way
so
to put
many
it.
different, I mean, stereotypes is a little bit of it, but there's so many different things that they're just fighting, like almost like trying to be too much of something to kind of settle in on what they are.
Yeah,
Like, what are you seeing with the teens out there these days?
I think, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. They're figuring out who they are, especially in these formative years of teens. It's like that through generations. But I think that they're realizing, as a society, we're coming to this point where you can be who you feel on the inside. If you are a woman who doesn't want to wear makeup and be girly, that's okay.
Yeah,
They realize
Amy-
that's acceptable. When as before, it's like, if you go outside without makeup on, what are you doing?
Yeah,
What
and
are you
Amy,
doing?
who's watching the live stream, just commented and said her youngest refused to put makeup on for the senior pics and wouldn't let her play for the cleanup filter. I always had to play for the cleanup filter too. Did you know that when you buy school pictures, you would know this. You have kids. You can
But I
pay
have
to-
boys.
You have boys. Yes, they have. I think they call it the blemish filter, but you can
we do
smooth
need
that.
the
Even
blemish
in the
filter.
school pictures, when we had school pictures, I looked like a hot mess. Like
Yeah.
if it was happening at the end of the day,
No.
no telling what those pictures. But now they do all kind of stuff.
Well, and I tell my girls too. I said, look, I am not going to airbrush you to the point you don't look like you're not supposed to. The only things that I really like to airbrush are either bad lighting or posing, which
Okay.
is my fault, or something that is temporary. So if you have a blemish or a breakout that day, I will take care of it. It will be like it never happened, because
Okay.
it's not something that makes them who they are. You know,
Right.
that blemish is not who they are. But if they have a birthmark or a mole or something like that, I really stress, hey, if you want it taken out, okay. But that's who you are. That's who
Right.
makes you who people. Skin is not perfect.
Yeah.
And so I really try to emphasize, if it's temporary, it can get removed. If it's something that is there all the time, let's keep it in.
So let's talk about this for a bit, because I had the opportunity to work with you with my youngest,
Mhm.
and we don't talk about this as much. And like we'll say, I love that you're saying, if this is you, we've had comments. Laura saying we always tell people follow your heart, but the world says no, not that way.
Right.
Which is true. So, but you use your platform as a photographer to have these conversations. Because I know now my child may have backfired a little bit on you, because I warned you before we did this. Because she's like, you had explained to me, I talked to the girls and the guys too, because I know you work with guys as well. But you talked to them during the session about confidence and standing out their natural beauty and letting things come out. And I think that's phenomenal, because I think so many kids don't hear that. And they don't get to see it. So I think to have an adult go, oh, look at this. This is beautiful.
Well, they hear it from their mom,
Right.
and everyone's mom thinks their
Right.
child is beautiful.
Yes.
So to hear it from your peers is a great thing as well. But to hear it from another adult female,
Yep.
I think has more weight than we put on it.
Yes.
And I didn't put a whole bunch of stock in it either until I started doing it, and I would get moms kind of pulling me aside and going, I've never seen her this confident before. She doesn't pose for photos. She's not normally this comfortable in front of the camera.
But I love that you're able to pull that out. Now, with my child, when we did our session, I did warn Ashley ahead of time. I said, confident, because she was telling me this, and I was like, this is fantastic. I love that you do that. And I said, when it comes to this particular child of mine, confidence is not her issue. Like and it was not.
She needs to come with me and be my hype woman.
She's a hype woman, because Ashley, you take a picture and the lighting was great, and you're like, look at this photo, look how pretty you are. And I would assume most normal children would say, oh, thank you, I'm not sure. And
or they
get
gasp,
excited.
oh my gosh, I can't believe that's
Right.
me.
My child, of course, goes, Ashley's like, look how good you look. She's like, I know, right? I'm pretty much gorgeous. And I'm like, this went on for hours of this session.
It was a really fun challenge for me.
It was. It's there's certain people we need to bring the confidence down a little bit. That may have been my child. But the pictures were phenomenal, because she was relaxed and having fun. But even her, who I think has a lot of confidence, outwardly has a lot of confidence, has a lot still of the self-doubt, because she's one of three. I have three girls. Mm-hmm. So she's one of three girls. She's seen her sisters, pose and wear makeup and all this stuff. And, she's always like, oh, they're, so pretty, and they're this and they're that. She does tell one of them that she's the ugly sister.
Well, that's more of a sibling thing.
That's more of a sibling thing. But it definitely took a new, it took it to a different level. Like, it was really cool to see somebody else say that, because I've always told her that, and she kind of dismisses it. I think when your mom tells you something, it's like, whatever.
Always.
Like, you're just the mom.
Always. But it's funny, because we emulate what we see growing up, even if it's unspoken.
Right.
One of those, one of the big things that especially young girls will follow kind of how their mom views themselves.
Yes.
So if you have a
My
mom,
girls are screwed.
Yeah.
Like, for serious.
I know, if I had girls, they would be too.
They are. Because, they've told me that, because I'm harder on me than I'm on them, for sure. And they're like, oh.
Well, and even with
how
boys,
many of us have talked about dieting our entire life?
Exactly. I commented one time about wanting to lose my belly, or saying something in passing that you don't even really think about, that your kids are even listening to. And a couple of weeks later, my son actually started working out and refused dessert. My younger one, I think he was like 11 at the time. He goes, well, I don't really like this belly. I need to get rid of this belly. 11-year-old boy. And he's like, oh, I probably need to start running. I need to get rid of this belly. I'm like, oh my gosh.
So what are you
saying?
What do you say to girls? As we think, I think a lot of it, we're going to talk about friendships in a minute, but I think a lot of it has to do with the people you surround yourself with. Because my girls heard me, I made all the mistakes. I've told them I will pay for therapy when they're older, but they are now all along, because I did all the things. Because when I grew up, I was being told, you need to lose some weight, you need to do, and I was not big by any stretch of the imagination, but whether it was sports or something like that, I was always told that I needed to knock off a few pounds.
Oh, see, mine was the opposite. I was always tall, skinny, string. I got made fun of. It's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, right?
It's like you can't, whatever you have, you want something different.
Yeah. Well, whatever you have, it's not right.
Right.
It's not correct. So, I was always too skinny. And I remember even my mom would say, oh, gosh, I would kill to be that skinny. And, now I sort of have the opposite issue. Of course, I'm not big by any means. Not that that would matter, but I've gotten lazy. So it's like, okay, I want to go and tighten it up again. Right. But I always make sure I've got an 11-year-old niece who I want to be very careful about what I say to her.
Right.
And I always make sure that I say things like, I really want to be stronger. I want to strengthen everything up. I want to tone everything up. Not, I want to lose weight. Oh, I'm fat.
Yeah,
it's those key words.
It is the key words, and it's. But let's talk about this for a minute. And this may be a little bit controversial, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So I know some of you guys listening and commenting on the live stream. I know a lot of you guys. I don't know some of you guys. So we'll see how this lands.
Ooh.
I agree with what we're saying is that we need to be confident in our own skin. We need to make sure that the words we use are positive words and encourage people. Mm-hmm. However, I do see a trend where the pendulum has swung so far that it's almost like, well, it's just me. And a lot of people are using it as an excuse to just let themselves just go.
Agree.
I think it's crazy because, people will like, I get the whole body positivity, and I agree with that, and I need that as an adult in my 50s as much as anybody else. Mm-hmm. But there is a health component to it too, that's where I'm like, there's cautious because I'm like, yes, I want you to be yourself, and I want you to embrace your curves, but I do want you to be healthy. When I gain weight and I have my little pooch, which is. My daughter says, I said something about a 6-pack. She goes, I've got a 6-pack of pudding cups. Because they love that they're thicker, and thick is big right now.
Right.
Like that's the thing, is to be thick. Well, thick is okay. Obese and really heavy is not, because I just don't think it's healthy. And I feel like that's where I don't know where the line is.
Well, I think the main word there is health. And health looks different on a lot of different people, or a lot of people. You always want to make sure that you are encouraging the body type that they have. Yes. There are many different body types. I was thin, and I think in my 20s, I was very thin, but I wasn't healthy. I was eating whatever I wanted. Yeah. I didn't have a whole lot of muscle mass. It was just that I was thin. I didn't have a lot of skin, didn't have a lot of fat underneath that skin. So I think when you are talking to young girls about this, it's not so much do whatever you want, eat whatever you want. You're like, yes, eat the cake, of course.
For sure.
But I wouldn't live a lifestyle that isn't focused on nourishing your body, taking care of your body, moving your body. That was the thing that I needed ingrained in me for the last 5 years.
And that's the healthy habits, because Michelle just said that. Mm-hmm. She said there's a bold line between body positivity and being unhealthy, and obesity is not body positivity. I agree. And I'm glad I'm not there. All right. So thank you guys for coming to my defense here, because I agree. And Amy just said this, doctors are afraid to tell people they need to lose weight because it's in there. And I agree with that. There's a confidence. We're trying to build confidence, but at the same time, let them take care of themselves. And I think we need, part of having confidence and having the right female role models and relationships is when people tell you that they love you enough to tell you, all right, hey, we need to rein this back in a little. Like my brother calls it intentional movement, because I get lazy. I'm not an exercise person. I've said this a ton before. I don't like working out. I absolutely hate working out. There needs to be a social component to it for me to be able to do it. And years ago when I was competing in martial arts, that was great. But I got to hit and kick people. That was fantastic. It was like
you
therapy.
Find what works for you.
You find what works. And then I did 75 hard last year. I was walking twice a day and working out twice a day. And it was only for 75 days. And it was a lot, but I was in phenomenal shape. So I know for me, any challenges I have personally with how I look or feel, it's 100% a result of the choices I make.
Well, 100%. And a lot of people
and I know some people have some genetic components and things like that predispose them to other body types and things of that nature. But most of the time, 90% of the time, it's the choices we make.
Well, and it is choices we make, but also the body type. You can have people who work out all day long, can eat whatever they want and still can't lose weight per se. They have the curves. That's just how they're built. And I think that's what we need to embrace. Look at Serena Williams.
Yeah.
Serena Williams, gosh,
Works
who
out
knows
all
how
the
much
time.
she works out. And she still is curvaceous. She's a bigger woman.
But I wouldn't call her obese or anything.
No,
Like
absolutely
curvy,
not.
I think
but
curvy
she's
is
not
great.
pencil thin. And I think
Right.
that's what we need to get away from is you need to be pencil thin. If you work out and eat right, you're going to be skinny as Kate Moss.
Yes.
But then on the other end of that, you also need to say, but that is also okay if that is your natural state. I have a sister who she has the opposite problem. She tries to gain weight because, like you said, one the
I've
big
got
booty
some
you
I'll
want.
give you.
Yeah, exactly. That's what people tell her. They're
Right.
like, oh, why would you be upset about being skinny? She's,
I've had friends like that
the
too,
grass
that they
is
can't
always
gain.
greener,
But I
right?
think there's, we just had a comment, fuller figure, society's promoting fuller figures, but are presenting obese bodies. I agree, because I think there's nothing wrong with curves. There's nothing wrong with embracing your body. I'm just saying, if you want to be confident, let's use it as a way to be healthy, as opposed to just worrying about like the aesthetics of it.
Well, and
if
I
you
think
will.
when you feel good on the inside, it's going to show on the outside.
Right.
So if you are nourishing your body with good food, you're drinking plenty of water, you're walking, it's just going to naturally happen that your body is going to be at its best. Whatever that looks like is what it looks like.
So how do you do this with your young girls? Like with the girls that you have the opportunity to work with? How do we have? I mean, because I can have these conversations with my kids, and I will tell you with my older ones, because they're a little bit older, a lot bit mouthier, they push back. They're like, well, it's okay. People can be who they want. And I'm like, as long as you're healthy. Now, fortunately, my girls are all very healthy. And they make pretty good choices about, food and beverage. Only one of them's old enough to drink. So
I feel
she
like-
doesn't drink that much.
I feel like a lot of times it happens naturally, but then they also start with my oldest. He actually started not feeling good about himself.
Okay.
Again, very thin kid, but he wanted to build muscle. He saw people around him,
Yeah.
and they were strong. They could do more things than him, and he also used to be an athlete, but he decided that he wanted to build some muscle. And then he kind of stopped doing that. He got a little bit lazy, and he noticed that his tummy was getting a little big. So he's like, okay, I got to stop eating all the junk all the time. I've got to start drinking my water. I've got to get back on my workouts. So I think the biggest thing for us as parents is just leading by example, not having a bunch of junk in the house. I do have the snack foods,
Yep.
but my kid, we don't drink a lot of soda in my house.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, Coke, as we say
Coke,
down
yeah.
here in the
As
South.
we say
I
in the
still say
South,
soda. Everyone makes fun of me.
It's all Coke. Yeah.
We for dinners, I make fairly healthy dinners because me and my husband are kind of on a health kick right now. My husband works out like crazy. We take walks. I've been weight training as far as working out because I hate
Okay.
cardio. So I think example is the best because, like you said, preaching to them,
Yep. It doesn't
teenagers,
work. It
it's
doesn't
not going to work.
Well, and I think part of that too. Let's dive into friendships a little bit, because we're talking about parents and how we influence. But I think even as adults, I think our friends influence us so much more than anything.
Oh yeah, you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
I know, I love that, and I think about the 5 people and I'm super intentional. I mean, I'm super intentional about how I spend my time and with who, because I just don't want the negativity. But I think especially for young girls and young guys too, you have sons. I don't have sons, so I don't know. But I think the people they surround themselves and the conversations they're having about themselves, their body, how they treat their body, their confidence, everything. I think that weighs way more probably than what we're telling them as parents.
Oh, 100%. And it's hard to tell your kids who to hang out with. They gravitate towards who they gravitate towards. Yeah. I was lucky that my kids tend to hang around kids just like them. But that's a tough one. Again, it has to go back to who you are surrounding yourself with. I'm lucky enough that I have an amazing tribe that I hang around with. My kids see them, how they're raising their families, how we all treat each other. And I think a lot of that is influencing the people that they hang around. Yeah. And again, I think that's one of those things that they have to figure out for themselves. All of a sudden they decide, these people are not good for me. They're
But
not
that's a
healthy for
good
me.
lead by example opportunity with
Mhm.
kids, because I know I've tried to, expose my kids to some of the people I'm around and everything. And our friend, excuse me, our friend Tran, she said the same thing. She has a teenage daughter, and her daughter has made the comments like, "Your friends are so nice. They're so helpful. They're so generous." Because she's allowed her daughter to be around them, and I've tried to bring mine around as well. I bring her to charity events. I do things like that, because the more positivity they can see in friendships, I think the better off they're going to be. Because I think when I was younger, I still have, I don't know about you, I still have some friends from childhood
I do
and
actually.
growing
One of my
up.
best friends is from second grade.
Oh, that's so cool. I mean, I definitely still have them, but I moved away. So I think that's part of it. But I feel like as we age, we get more selective and more intentional about our friends.
Oh,
And
definitely.
mine are definitely a vibe and a values match.
It's
for
it's
sure.
quality over quantity.
Yes.
And I,
Yeah.
I honestly think I'm seeing that a lot in this generation. Is they're acting almost as if they've already figured that out. And they do. They seem to have a smaller group of people that they hang out with, but that's their everything. They bounce all the ideas and everything. And like you said,
But if it's the wrong group of people, that's where
Right.
it gets tough.
and that's where we might need to enlist the help of a child psychologist. It is not me.
That is true. Well, and we've talked to some therapists, and we've done some episodes in the past on like traumas and micro traumas. Because girl, I'm just hearing too much about the traumas and the micro traumas and the aggression.
Micro traumas.
There's all kind of sizes of them now. But I think part of it is just you've got to get help when you need help for sure, but you've got to look at the people in your circle. And I think this goes to the kids as well. What was interesting is with my youngest, we were talking with some of the teachers at school in one of her parent-teacher conferences or whatever, and they were saying that because there were so many friends I didn't know. And I was like, I don't know this new group of friends. Like, there were some names coming up that I would hear on the regular that I'm like, I don't know who this person is. I haven't met this person. And so I'm asking the teachers, and the teachers were telling me that she changed her friend group between last year and
in a good way.
In a good way. And I didn't know. I said, I'm hearing all these names. I don't know who they are. They're like, honestly, she got to the point where she's distancing herself from drama.
Yeah,
and this is the child I never thought would distance
you
herself
almost
from
hope
drama.
that those girls will help the other girls realize that their actions are not ideal, and that what they're doing it's just not worth it in the grand scheme of things. Bullying and all that.
Yes.
Just why? What is the purpose of this? Who is this
we
helping?
we all did it, but it didn't. And Michelle just made a comment. As we get older, we have less time, so we get more selective. And I think I'd love for the kids, Michelle, I would love for the kids to see this now at younger ages.
Yeah, just be like, at 35, you don't have time for the drama.
You really don't.
Just
I
don't
don't
have
do.
time
I
for
so
it.
don't do drama. It's not even fun.
We've talked about this.
We
can't
like
do drama.
I just don't have time. I'm old and tired, and I'm having some fun. So I'm just like, I don't have time for it. If I always say, if it doesn't bring you joy or move you closer to your goals, say no.
What's the point?
Don't eat it. Don't drink it. Don't date it. Don't marry it. Don't
and
spend time with it.
And honestly, I use some of the things that I've learned as an adult through self-improvement and mindset and things like that. I'll post that on my Instagram where my teens see it, because the younger that they hear that kind of stuff, hopefully the easier it will be for them.
I have noticed that on your Instagram, because I know you're speaking to a teen audience, but in preteens as well. But I started going, okay, this is cool. And these are I think parents should read what you're saying and repeat those, because they've got to hear it. I don't know about you, but most teens, it takes a hot minute for them to get what we're saying to them.
You have to tell them quite a few times.
Yes.
And that you'll see me repeating myself a few times.
That's okay.
But just, like you said, going back to hearing it from somebody who isn't your mom or your aunt or your grandmother, saying, oh, well, maybe there is something to this. Or just planting that little seed, putting it in their subconscious, that maybe next time they're presented with a choice, they'll be like, you know what? This is not going to be the best idea for me. This is not bringing me joy.
It's not bringing me joy. Some things are bringing teenagers joy that we need to not do anyway.
Yeah.
But for the most part, all right. So if your advice to teens are what? Like when it comes to, let's say friendships. When it comes to friendships,
choose wisely.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times once you get caught up in that and that becomes your life, it becomes who you are. And you're defined by this. What was it back when I was in high school? People peaked in high school. The cheerleader, the captain of the football team, he peaked in high school. And then it's all downhill from there.
Yes.
You don't want to, quote unquote, peak in high school.
Right? That would be way too early to peak.
Way too early. You've got so much more amazingness ahead of you, right? So just think about who you're hanging out with, and are you gaining energy from them, or are they draining energy from you? And they don't necessarily have to be a bad person. They don't have to be, drug user or, a thief or anything like that. But people who are constantly needing things from you and draining your energy is also not healthy for you.
The takers or the energy zappers. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So if you find yourself coming home from hanging out with them and you're just absolutely drained, emotionally, mentally, then it may be time to rethink. And you don't have to completely cut people off. As an adult, sometimes there's some people you just need to limit your time with them.
Yes.
So it's not so much about, okay, I'm cutting you out of my life, you're done. Right. Especially tell a 17-year-old that, I'm cutting you out of my life. Yeah. But I think college is a really good excuse for a lot of people to be like, oh yeah, we'll keep in touch. Yeah. Well, if you don't keep in touch, it wasn't meant to be.
It's true. And it's so funny. I was organizing some stuff around the house, and I made a memories box for each of the girls, which basically just means a big Rubbermaid tub in the garage that someday they'll take with them. But I was going through all the things and their high school stuff and everything. My oldest she'll be 24. She's in law school, so she's away. She's in New York. But I look at the people she was super close with in high school, and there may be like a couple she still talks to on occasion. Mm-hmm. And we moved around a lot, so she has a couple she's connected with online from elementary school, but we think these are like our BFFs, and they're gone. Like I was reading through my yearbooks, and some of the ones back in the day when you would get your yearbook, you'd sign the yearbook, but you reserved a page for like your bestie. Mm-hmm. And everything like that. And some of mine that had the whole page or the half page reserved, for Joe, they're relationships that, I don't know, they just fizzled. And weren't bad ones, were just ones that kind of naturally
you were going different directions in your lives. Yeah. She needed other people that she needed to surround herself with, and you needed other people. It all just kind of happens. It goes back to the whole, manifesting people into your life. And I got very lucky. I'm friends with a couple of girls that I was friends with in high school. We just clicked. We didn't talk so much. I had my kids early, so they were off doing the young adult fun thing. I was doing the mommy thing, and it's funny because now it's swapped, and they're stuck at home and having to take care of young kids.
Ones, and you're having fun.
And I'm like, woo, freedom. But yeah, we didn't really talk much for a couple years, but then we came back together, and now we're as tight as ever.
And I think you need that. When we talk about friendships, and I can't speak to male friendships because, and our guys that normally comment.
Because male friendships are, hey, you want to be friends? All right, cool, let's go get a beer.
What kind of beer do you like? No, I don't know. Our guys that normally comment are being kind of, on our live stream, are being kind of quiet today. So I don't know. I'm curious about the guy friendships. But, for female friendships, there are so many that you just pick up where you left off. And I mean, my closest friend throughout college and everything that was the, maid of honor at my wedding, she lives here in town. I mean, we're in Atlanta, though. In town, she's an hour, hour and a half away, and still in town. We probably see each other once a year. We get together for a few hours of lunch, and life's just gotten busy, and still one of my closest friends. We pick up
but it's like no time has passed.
And I think you've got those relationships, but they're nourishing. I think nourishing is the word that keeps popping into my head, which is weird because it sounds so hoo-hooey, but if a relationship is feeding you and nourishing you, then that's probably a good one to maintain, whatever that looks like, whether it's once a year or daily. But Amy says that's why she hangs out with us ladies. That's right, Amy, because we are
rays of sunshine.
That's what it is. But I think it's part of it goes back to knowing yourself. I use the word intentional. I'm super intentional. I know who brings me energy. It's really a vibe thing for me, which
absolutely a vibe.
It sounds weird, but I look, and I say this with my clients too, because I know we're talking about female friendships, but as far as business goes, and you probably see this with your photography clients as well, I can tell if somebody's draining me. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
typically look at my clients and I'll say, hey, take a peek at your calendar and whatever appointment you're looking at going, oh my God, I don't want to meet with this person or I don't want to have this appointment. That's probably a big clue as to the type of person or the actual person you should not be spending time with.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, if you're walking away from a conversation or you're hanging out with a group of people, you know who you want to continue conversations with.
Yep.
And who, me going to networking meetings, I will know probably within the first 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's scientifically proven. It is a literal vibration that you have or don't have with somebody. And it's either going to work or it's not going. Now, whether they're going to become my very best friend,
right.
that, you never know that part. But if it's somebody that I find myself wanting to spend more time with, then it's somebody that I walked away from giving me energy.
Yeah, you feel better after having that conversation. I
Exactly.
think that goes for friendships, business,
you're in a better mood.
everything.
You're kind of walking on air. Oh, that was great. And then other times, I've walked away from networking meetings I feel like I could fall asleep in my car.
Yeah.
Because it was just
draining.
So draining for me. I'm not physically tired, just emotionally and mentally just cannot.
Well, and I think part
function.
of that is trying to be somebody you're not or show up the way you think you're supposed to show up. And that's what's been so fun in building our Renew community is and you guys know this because we're building this community. We have a lot of members here in Atlanta. We're building across the nation. And I hate the word networking. You know that because I always say this is not a networking group. It's not. Because it's really a community, but it's an energy thing. Like everybody gets something out of it. And if they don't get something out of it or they're not our people, they honestly fizzle out. We've had people come to some of our events where they come to one and we're all kind of like, I don't know if that's our person. And they don't really come back. I mean, if you follow the energy and really pay attention to what's elevating you and what's helping get your excitement, it's easier to do.
And honestly, I mean, that's the kind of energy that I try to bring with the younger girls because they're nervous. It's like when somebody comes to a networking meeting for the first time, maybe they're an introvert. I always try to be the person who is going up and greeting them immediately. Oh, hey, how are you? Everything about you. What do you do?
Yeah.
What brings you here? And I find that I do the same thing, bring that same energy to my girls because they're teenage girls. Most of them, 98% of them are nervous. Some of them have the self-confidence. They're chatty Cathys, and that's awesome because then we just mesh our energy together. But a lot of these girls, the first bit of the shoot, okay, let's get them out of their shell. And you start talking to them. I kind of act. I don't take myself too seriously. Kind of act like a weirdo. And you see by the end of the shoot, we're messing around with each other. We're joking around. They're like killing it. They're falling into poses because it's just becoming so natural for them. So yeah, I mean, really.
But it's letting them relax. It's allowing them to, because what it sounds like is you're allowing their true self to come out.
Everybody's best self comes out when they're relaxed. And if you can't make somebody relaxed, you're never going to get the good shot of them.
I think that's I never really thought about it that way. I think that's a good. Yeah. I mean, it's if I really sit back for a minute and think about my closest relationships, I am 1,000,000% relaxed and I don't feel like I'm trying to do or be anything other than just.
You don't have to put on the
I'm
face.
not. Yeah, I just show up as me, and that's enough for those.
And
people.
I think that goes back to the whole changing from being a model to being yourself. Because when let's say you don't want to be all dolled up, you don't want to I don't love my hair curled. So if I go and have a photo shoot and they're like, oh, well, we curl everyone's hair. Well, I don't feel like myself with my hair curled. My brand is sort of straight hair or maybe a couple of waves, but curly hair, I was going to say lots of eye makeup, but I do wear lots of eye makeup. Or like a natural look. I'm going to look at those photos and be like, well, that's not really me. Yeah. And if I hear somebody say that, then I haven't done my job. Because I want you to look at that and be like, that is the best version of me I've ever seen.
But I love that because if we could start to look at ourselves and the people around us and our children in the way that they want to see themselves, the way they want to show up. That's good. Because we always talk about being your authentic self. I say it a lot, but it's worn out at this point. And I think here's the difference. Being your authentic self to me means that you are being who you want to be. not going wackadoodle overboard and saying, I mean, I could identify as a Kardashian. I'm still not going to be a Kardashian, right? So I don't want to be a Kardashian. Although they do have great eye makeup.
No, yeah,
but
I can't handle.
I think it's embracing who you truly want to be, and showing up as it, and then letting everybody else just kind of fall in. And if they don't fall in, they're probably not your people.
Yeah, and if you don't want to do the crazy wackadoodle stuff, that's also fine. If you want to be quote unquote a plain Jane, all right, let's celebrate that. Yeah. Let's do that. If you're a more sporty girl, let's celebrate that. Right. Let's do that. And that's what I'm really trying to get into. I look back at some of my older work and I love it, and the girls were awesome. But I can see personally how they don't look the same, but it's all the same sort of, okay, this is how we're going to do the makeup, and this is the kind of wardrobe you can bring. Now it's more of guiding them. Hey, if you don't love how your arms look, maybe let's not bring spaghetti strap shirts.
Right.
You don't have to cover them up, but if it makes you uncomfortable and it's going to make you look at the photos and that's what you're going to focus on, then it's not worth it. Let's choose something else.
And you have them bring that, because you were like, just bring what you normally wear.
Yeah.
And that's what we did for Kennedy's
And I'll make suggestions and be like, hey, if we throw a jacket over this, or with a hat, we did the hats are super fun. I've had girls say, I'll bring the hat. And then they put the hat on for a few, and they're like, I'm just not feeling it. All right, cool, give me the hat. I'm not doing the hat if you're not feeling it. No problem. So that is a huge component to how I have changed things for my session, especially for the younger girls. Because young girls, we're not going to get you super dolled up.
Right.
It's going to be light makeup because it's fun. Yes. It just feels fun.
And it was fun. I will say, though, because we did her makeup. Meaning your makeup artist did her makeup. I did nothing but sit there.
I am same here.
But it was fun because she'd never had. I mean, I get dolled up to go to events and do media appearances and things like that. But and I love it. I feel like it's like dress up.
It's part of the experience.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people that loves makeup. I can't put it on to save my life. Like I'll see the makeup artist come in and do my makeup. I'm like, yeah, okay, that looks. Yeah.
They do a much better job.
So good, but she had fun. I mean, it was light makeup. It didn't look like she was,
Yeah.
She wasn't 13 going on 30 or anything like that.
It just made her, it elevated it just a little bit to make her feel like this day was a little bit more special than just going to get pictures done. Yes. And that's sort of how I want to tell them why we do makeup, because it is part of this experience. It can be as dark or as smoky-eyed or as bold-lipped as you want it, but just because I say makeup doesn't mean it has to look like that.
I think she felt, at least for her, it made her feel special. And like you said, the day was about her. Yep. It wasn't about like the makeup or the glamour or trying to be somebody she wasn't, because it looked super natural. I'll have to post some of the pictures. They're really good. But I know she's a hot mess. But I think it all goes back to creating experiences. And that was fun. I mean, for me, I looked at it as a parent, as an experience, creating an experience for my daughter that allowed her to be her and to know that that's good, and to build her confidence, and to, even though we didn't need to, but to really let her be who she wanted to be and show up, and that be appreciated by, an adult role model, if you will. Because you want somebody, everybody wants somebody that looks up to them and that looks at them and treats them like, man, you're a cool person and everything like that.
Yeah, everybody wants to feel special. You could say, beauty doesn't matter. I don't want to be vain. And that's the fine line that I have to kind of walk, is these photos aren't about me, 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 me. Look at me, look at me, look at me. It's about seeing how other people view you. And I am not perfect. I still have a really hard time with self-confidence. So it helps me to know that I'm showing these girls, hey, I learn a little bit, I think, every single time I'm on a session. But talking these girls up to be like, hey, this is who you are, and it is amazing. Let's show you in photographs and then have these on display for you to see anytime you're feeling like crap, or anytime you don't think that you are good enough for something, or anytime you feel like, oh, I'm not as pretty as so-and-so. Look how awesome you are, just the way you are.
And I think that's so important. That goes back to friendships too, because I think we all struggle, at least, I do struggle with self-confidence with certain things. We all have those little things that we're self-conscious
that nobody
about,
else notices
that
but
no
us.
one notices but us. And I'm like, I totally notice it. But I think it goes back to the people and not playing the comparison game, because
it's the thief of joy.
comparison is the thief of joy. It is, but we still do it, right?
I still do. I preach confidence all the time, but I am a work in progress. And I tell my audience
I think
that
we
too.
all are.
I am a hot mess. Some days my hair just will not do what I want it to do. We all have those ugly days.
Yeah.
We just feel like nothing looks right
Yes.
on us. Hair looks terrible. You look at a picture of yourself, you're like, wow, that's what I look like to people. But then your friend will look at the same picture and be like, wow, that's a great photo of you.
And you're like, what? Yeah.
Huh?
I think that's where the relationships and the friendships are so important, because
Right.
I could be having a cruddy day and feel awful, and I just need one of my little people, to say, oh, you look great, or you look this. Now, and now with that, one of the things I had to learn, and I was forced into learning this, was not to deflect the compliment.
That's actually one of the things that I teach. I've got a little Instagram post that I have, and one of them is accept compliments. You don't realize how much you don't accept compliments until you start thinking about it. And you're like, yeah, you know what? I do. Because that decreases your value to yourself. Every time you say, oh, Kristen, your hair looks amazing today. Oh, the humidity and my curling iron wasn't working right.
We deflect it. We put up the little shield
and you're putting up all these excuses, and then you're making me feel like, oh, well, I guess maybe it doesn't look that good.
So I think as part of building confidence, one of the things that I was challenged on, this was as an adult. I was probably almost late 30s, early 40s with this. The partner of my old firm, he would compliment me professionally on different things we'd done, and I would deflect him. I'd be like, oh, well, it was so-and-so, or the team helped, or blah, blah, blah. And one day he just looked at me and he gave me a compliment, and I started to open my mouth, and he goes, stop, say thank you, walk away. Mm-hmm. That's all he did. And so that kind of became the running thing. I'd say something, he'd say something, and I'd get the look like I was about to hold up that shield, and he would go, stop, and I would go, thank you.
And a lot of times that is what keeps women from advancing in their careers.
Yes.
Or as entrepreneurs from going out there and doing what they want.
Yes.
Because we don't think we can. We don't think we have the skills or the know-how, or we're pretty enough or smart enough. When in fact, somebody who doesn't have near the qualifications as us can move up because they have the confidence.
And men do that too, though. Men deflect, because I've had this conversation.
Oh, really?
With people very close to me about the same thing. And I think for all of us to build our confidence, we have to, if we're deflecting all the good that's coming at us, we can't absorb any of it.
Yep.
Like I'm thinking of I love Wonder Woman. Y'all know, I'm all about superheroes. So I'm thinking of Wonder Woman with her shield, and if Wonder Woman's continually deflecting everything, nothing is hitting her. Nothing is going.
Yeah. It's
got to hit you to be able to get in that soul. And so I think to build confidence, it's starting everything. Okay, Michelle just said her husband, her husband gets on her for not knowing how to take a compliment. I know. We all do. So my advice, Michelle, and everybody listening, is when somebody gives you a compliment, just smile and say thank you.
Yeah.
And let it soak in. Because our natural tendency is to
And the more you do
dispel
it, practice makes perfect, right? Yeah. So the more you accept that compliment, the more you put yourself in situations where you can be confident. It really does. I
surround
find
yourself
myself
with confident people.
Surround yourself with confident people. Because the thing is, there are very few people that actually are confident.
Yes.
It's almost a
my
fake it till
13-year-old is one. No, she's probably
everyone just needs to take notes from Kennedy. Surround yourself with those people, and then ask them what they do. You people who get on a stage and talk to thousands of people, you don't think they're back there going, okay, you got this. They're talking to themselves. They're giving themselves affirmations, how wonderful, how powerful they are. But they're not going, yep, I got this, no problems at all, sitting back there just chilling out.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm sure there are some.
And it depends. I think that brings up a good point. I'll speak to 10,000 people in 2 seconds flat and be totally fine. Yeah. You throw a camera on my face, I'm like, ah. So I think we all have these little components. So you seek out the people who know what they're doing, and are confident in the areas you're not.
And you do. A lot of times when I come to the networking, maybe I'm having kind of a bad day. I get in there, and you're just surrounded by so much good energy.
Yes.
It's palpable. You get in there and you start talking to people, and then I leave and I'm in a completely different mood.
And I think that's the key with it, with confidence and everything. It is the friendships, the people you surround yourself with, and what you're allowing to absorb. So what's crazy is we'll deflect the confidence all day long, but we will absorb the negativity in 2 seconds flat. Like somebody's throwing negative daggers at us, we're throwing the shield down and going, hit me.
I am probably one of the worst offenders with negative self-talk. And I heard something, it was Jay Shetty, I think,
Oh, love him.
he did a test with teenage girls. I think it was 17, 18-year-old, may have even been college age. And he said, write down all the things you don't like about yourself. Just write them down, every little thing you don't like about yourself. And the next room, he had their younger sisters, 9 to 12-year-olds. He's like, okay, now read that paper and tell them all those things about themselves. And they're like, oh, I can't do that. So if you wouldn't say it to your little sister, why would you say those things to yourself?
Yeah.
So I will actually stop myself mid-sentence and go, Ashley, that is not true.
Yep.
Even silly things like, oh, Ashley, you're so dumb. Why would you put, Ashley, no, you're not dumb.
Yep.
You made a mistake. So like, little things like that will have a profound impact.
I think it's huge. And I think it's whether it's, we're talking a lot about female friendships and everything today because that's the topic and that's what we are. But I think this goes for everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
Is learning to accept the compliment. I mean, the best way to build confidence is to fill yourself with the good stuff. And if we continue to, and this is the same thing, we've also, we started off talking about stereotypes and different things. We've also got to determine what we want to be and not let the masses or the media, because like we say, sometimes the M is silent, not let the asses to let us lead us down the wrong path.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to turn it all off. You got to shut it off and figure out, okay, this is what I want to do. If it's not making you happy, especially on Instagram, if you start scrolling, you start feeling that everyone has felt that sinking kind of feeling, or that, I don't even know how to describe it. Sometimes it's just like, I got to get off this app.
Yep.
I don't want to be on. I don't know how to describe it, what exactly I'm feeling, what I don't like about it, but you just got to get off it and find something else to do. Find something else.
I think that's going to be the key. That's the key. So, Miss Ashley, thank you for being with us. This was
Thank
great.
you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. We'll have to have you back. But as for those of you guys listening, take this to heart. I mean, really take a look at how you're building your confidence. Make sure that you are building it up instead of tearing it down. And if somebody gives you a compliment, just stop, say thank you, and let it soak in. So until next time, everybody, have a fantastic week, and we will see you very soon for another episode of Renew.